Now, you can just say of chapter 29, this is your life, Job. Here it is. And he's going to tell us about himself. And he begins to review it. Now will you listen? Chapter 29, beginning at verse 1. Moreover, Job continued his parable and said, Oh, that I were as in months past, as in the days when God preserved me. He starts off as being outstanding. He's all about me. This is very interesting. It goes like that little poem. I can't put my hand on it right now that I have. I gave a little tea party, and there were only 3 present, and it was me, myself, and I. I want to tell you, that's the kind of tea party that he's giving here. Now he goes back to the good old days. Things are not like they were in the good old days, he says. He goes on in verse 3 and says, When his candle shined upon my head, and when by his light I walked through darkness. Those were the good old days, when Job had it going good for him. Now he says here in verse 4, will you listen to him? As I was in the days of my youth, when the secret of God was upon my tabernacle. Here's a man that served God, and here was a man that from his youth he served God. He was just all right, by the way. And he goes on to tell us in verse 5, When the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were about me, and when I washed my steps with butter, and the rock poured me out rivers of oil. He was prosperous. Everything he touched turned to gold. When I went out to the gate through the city, when I prepared my seat in the street, the young men saw me and hid themselves, and the aged arose and stood up. I tell you, those were the good old days. He's not only prosperous, but he was a man of influence. The young kids had run from him. He was a great man. And not only that, the aged man, when they saw him coming, they all stood up, took their hat off, bowed to him. He was that kind of a man. And the princes, verse 9, the princes refrained talking and laid their hand on their mouth. In other words, when I came up, anybody's talking, they quit talking. They waited for me to say something, you see. Verse 10, the nobles held their peace, and their tongue cleaved to the roof of their mouth. Why, even the nobility. They listened to him, and they're not about to talk in his presence unless he asks them to.